All right, guys, we are back here to discuss the second game that we have on the wild card slate on Sunday between the Eagles and the Green Bay Packers. The Eagles and Packers, we got another rematch in this first round of the playoffs after these two teams faced off in Brazil. The Eagles look to get another win over the Packers, this time on American soil, on Philadelphia territory at Lincoln Financial Field. This time, there's concerns from both sides, though, surrounding their quarterbacks. At least at the start of this week, the Eagles are definitely feeling a lot better now around their quarterback situation because Jalen Hurts, started off still in the concussion protocol, and that was something that was being monitored, obviously, because it's not like any regular injury, right? You guys know how you can't just kind of go out there and try it out, right? They won't let you with a head injury, right? You have to clearly be able to clear the protocol before they even let you back to practice. So all of that news really turned positive for the Eagles on today and also yesterday because Jalen Hurts was a full participant at practice, and that pretty much just cleared him to play. So he's going to be out there, and really the only thing the Eagles have to worry about in that regard, I guess, would be some of the rustiness. He hasn't played since the Commanders game in Week 16, so not having any football at all, no practice, no nothing, is going to be, I guess, a bit of a challenge, but the biggest thing is that Jalen Hurts is going to be out there. While on the other side, you look at Jordan Love and his situation with injuries. He injured his elbow last week, and although he was kind of warming up to kind of go back into the game at one point, that never really flourished into anything. And now heading into the wild card round, he's been a limited participant at practice up until Wednesday, and then yesterday and today, he was actually a full participant, so he's actually not on the Packers injury designation ahead of their game. But there was a point during this week that during that limited participation, he did say he was still feeling the effects of that elbow injury and how that's going to affect his throwing and everything like that, and how he feels on the day of the game is obviously going to be huge. But he has no injury designation, so he is going to be out there, but that is something to watch, right? And see how often the Packers go to try and throw and how quickly also he gets rid of the ball. That's also something that kind of goes unnoticed, right? If they change how long they hold on to the ball and things like that. Jordan Love is one of them that usually I feel like does hold on to it a little bit longer, so it'll be interesting to see how quickly he kind of tries to get rid of it, or maybe if it affects him in a negative way, in case he might get a little bit of happy feet and you can see some of the anxiousness there without trying to get hit. All of that are, factors that we're going to see really play out on Sunday. But heading back into the preview more so of this game, Green Bay finds themselves in a similar spot to last year, right? As the 7th seed and as an extremely young team. Not the youngest like they were last year, but this year they're actually the second youngest team in the playoffs. And, they don't have that element of surprise anymore, right? And I brought this up, and I wanted to bring this up because last year, albeit the Cowboys, and everybody knows how unlucky, to say it positively, the Cowboys are in the playoffs, right? I think last year nobody really thought too much of this so-called Aaron Rodgers replacement, right? Nobody really thought that much of Jaden Reed. Like, who is that? Nobody knew who that was. Romeo Dobbs, is he really a number one receiver? Christian Watson, how much can he do outside of the deep ball? Nobody really even heard of Dontavius Wicks before the last couple weeks of the season, and they used that to their advantage, and now we know how good all of those players are, obviously, and I think Philly and now everybody in the playoffs kind of aren't taking them for granted as much as they did last year, and especially Philadelphia with this defense. And the Eagles are definitely not the Cowboys when it comes to the playoffs. They're definitely going to be ready for the kind of threat that the Packers do possess when when they are hitting on all cylinders. So that is something that really the Packers don't have kind of hidden in their back pocket. And going back to their first meeting to kind of pick away from things we saw in that game, the Eagles ended up winning 34-29, and in large part, that was due to Saquon Barkley. Obviously, he had 3 rushing touchdowns, or he had 2 rushing touchdowns and another receiving, and 109 rushing yards on the day. And obviously, that's something that the Packers can't allow to happen again. And one thing that is going to change in regards to defending Saquon Barkley this time around is their rookie linebacker, Edgerrin Cooper. He didn't really play the first time around, obviously, because he's a rookie and that was like the first game and everything like that. They're not just going to throw him out there. So he really didn't have an opportunity to go out there, show what he's all about. And then over the course of the season, I think now most of the Packers fans, and most really of the NFL, if you follow the Packers a little bit, you really know who Edgerrin Cooper is. He's an every down linebacker now for them. He's super athletic. He's not your typical, I think, linebacker build. To me, he looks kind of like more like a bigger safety, kind of like DeMarvion Overshown for the Cowboys. They're not really like stout and kind of built out, width-wise. They're pretty lengthy and they're pretty rangy with how they move, and they're extremely fast, but still they don't get bullied in a way, right, by blocks. They're still strong enough to kind of get off blocks and be efficient in the run game. Those two guys to me are very similar, and I think Edgerrin Cooper has brought a lot to this Packers defense already, being one of their main pieces on that side of the ball. And I'm not saying he's going to go out there and completely stop Saquon, but it's definitely a huge help to have someone that athletic and especially that mature and already the football IQ with him, and how he's an every down linebacker for them. It's going to help a lot when trying to match the athleticism and physicality of not only Saquon but that offensive line too, especially. So having him back there is going to be huge for them. And in terms of injury news, I already mentioned the quarterbacks and everything like that. Christian Watson, if any of you guys were unaware, he's not going to play. He tore his ACL, so he's done for the season. And one thing to also keep an eye on is A.J. Brown. He missed practice yesterday with a knee injury, or just some sort of rest that they were giving him for that knee injury. I don't see him on here on the injury designation for the Eagles, so I assumed he was going to play, but it was just something that I wasn't expecting to see. Yeah, I mean, he has no injury designation, so I expected him to be out there, but that was something that just was unexpected. I didn't think he was really dealing with anything, so that really is the only thing. Everything else looks pretty good to go for both the Packers and the Philadelphia Eagles. So again, that's also very good to see. You don't want anybody, being down and having a disadvantage or anything like that. So heading now into the goals that I think each team should have when they are trying to secure a victory, what is absolutely pivotal, in my opinion, for them to get a win is for the Packers. I want to see them start fast. I want to see them start fast because not only is Philadelphia one of the worst teams at not only starting the games, but in the first quarter, I don't have the exact point differential, but they're very far in the negative when it comes to that, right? The first quarter is not really an area or a part of the game where they're at their best. They're more so get a feel for the game, get more used to it, and then they kind of rev it up as the game goes on. The first quarter has not been too kind to them, so for the Green Bay Packers, I think that has to be something that's indisputable, something that they have to do in this game, right? And especially because in the first game, if I go back to it really quick, I know there was a bunch of opportunities where the Packers went down into the red zone and they just didn't convert, right? That credit to the Eagles defense for stopping them in all those red zone possessions. But if you're the Eagles, if you're the Packers, if you get down there that often, they got down there, I have it up here now, they got into the red zone 4 times and they only converted a touchdown on one of them. And that's obviously huge when you realize how close the game ended up being. So if you just get another touchdown, or just really that, if you just get another touchdown, you probably end up winning this game. So starting fast, and with that, comes the idea of being efficient in the red zone and making sure you take advantage of all your opportunities to put 7 up on the board, and not 3 points, right? That's going to be massive for them. And if they could do that and start off very fast, get out to like a 10-0 or a 14-0 lead, then you kind of start having Philadelphia not only play catcher, but kind of play into your hands at that point. So that is something I think the Packers should do. And for the Eagles, right, I'd like to see them get Jalen Hurts in rhythm as fast as possible. I know I've been a stickler for them running the ball early and often as well, but in this case, maybe I'd accept them going out there and throwing a bit more, just so I can see Jalen, out there taking live snaps and maybe knocking some of that rust off. I'm not saying he's going to look bad or anything like that or unprepared, but I'd like to just see it, right? If I was a fan, I'd like to see Jalen complete a pass or two and just get him back into that game mode, adrenaline running early. I'd like to see that from Jalen, especially with a head injury and things like that and not being able to play whatsoever. I think that would really help the Eagles as well. But that leads me into the matchups here before I end up picking a winner. I kind of mentioned it before, Edgerrin Cooper going up against Saquon Barkley, that running back to linebacker matchup. It also plays into the fact that the Packers have the third-ranked run defense in terms of yards allowed per carry. So they've been pretty successful in that area, and I'm sure stopping Saquon is going to be one of their major points. And I think Edgerrin Cooper, if by any reason we see Saquon sort of struggle or not really get too much from his carries, you're going to see Edgerrin Cooper in the backfield or involved in a lot of that throughout the game. So don't be surprised if you see that. Also, Xavier McKinney kind of going up against Jalen Hurts, right? We got quarterback on the offense against quarterback on the defensive side of the ball. And McKinney's like I said, the quarterback back there for the Packers, and their defense finished third in takeaways in large part because of him and how many takeaways he got and the impact that he just has on opposing offenses, right? You don't want to throw it too close to him. The Eagles would know because Jalen Hurts threw an interception to him in their first game, so they know the threat of McKinney and kind of identifying him, making sure Jalen Hurts knows where he's at all times, and I'm sure the Packers are going to have some sort of spy on Jalen, whether it be McKinney or whether it be the other safety or maybe Edgerrin Cooper. That's going to be something that, McKinney has to, figure out on the defensive side of the ball as well. So that sort of chess match is going to be great to see. And lastly here, in a similar sort of area, I want to see A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith going up against a Packers secondary without Jair Alexander. I know they haven't had Jair for a while, but you would love to have him when you're going up against a wide receiver like A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith. And especially with Jalen Hurts coming back, maybe being a little bit rusty would definitely help to have a guy like that out there. But they're going to have to make do without him. And if the Eagles can take advantage of that, not only will that help them, obviously, but if they're having success in that area, you probably expect Jalen Hurts to be looking pretty good as well. So those are all the matchups. And with them in mind, the winner of this game, I believe, is going to be the Philadelphia Eagles. The game's very close. I mean, the game's pretty evenly matched on ESPN where I'm looking at it. I mean, the Eagles are only a 3.5 point favorite, and that's not really too big of a margin. I wouldn't be surprised if the Packers won this game, but I think the Eagles are going to win just because Jordan Love's elbow injury. I think that could be something that if he follows through, if he gets hit the wrong way, then you see him grab that elbow, and now, everything's kind of out the window, right? And that's not something that you can necessarily control. So that worries me, and I just don't know if Green Bay can keep up and kind of keep Philadelphia down enough offensively and defensively as well for them to kind of hold on and win this game, right? I don't know if they're going to be so efficient in the red zone, right? The Eagles have a great defense, and, the Packers, they've been pretty spotty in the passing game, so that is something that worries me in that regard. So I just don't know about the Packers. I have more questions about them than I do the Eagles, right? If the passing game's not working, then I have just as much confidence in Saquon in the running game and vice versa, and they have one of the best defenses playing in the playoffs, so there's a lot more things telling me Philadelphia than Green Bay. So I'm going to go with Philly. at the link, getting the job done, probably covering the spread, I would imagine, and moving on to the next round. So we do got one more game to talk about, though, on Sunday. On Sunday Night Football, we got another rematch of a Week 1 game. This one between the Buccaneers and the Washington Commanders. Two great NFC quarterbacks going head-to-head. Experts are predicting a shootout. I would love to see it, but there's a lot more about this game that we have to know about, and I'll bring that to you when we return in just a few seconds.
Looking